Welcome on back to the overnight edition of From Day One. Art Bell and Johnathan Reed with Alien in the Freezer are waiting in the wings, so let's get them started right now for the final portion of their story.
What it does is truly fantastic.
Let me tell you something, and everybody else at the same time. I was mailed some pieces that were allegedly from a UFO, one that crashed back in Roswell. And I've held on to those. I gave Larry King a piece, and I've held on to those pieces for a very, very long time. Linda's had them professionally tested, and Linda Moulton-Howe should be on the program to talk about it. But what I'm getting at here is I've had some disturbances around those objects. And because of that, I've kept them in a very, very safe location. So
yes,
don't come looking, because it's already happened.
That's right. And it's already in a safe place beyond my control. So
I don't blame you. I don't blame you a bit.
But what's kind of interesting, Art, is the materials that you found in your pieces of metal are also in my piece.
Oh?
I had the link artifact was analyzed in Osaka, Japan in 1999 by the University of Osaka.
Really?
They did metallurgy testing and biochemistry testing and X-rays and all kinds of things. And they
do tell. What did they find?
They found that the basic materials were silicon polymer, beryllium, aluminum, magnesium, copper, zinc, bismuth, gold, and some unknown, unidentifiable materials. That the layers inside of this thing, even though it's very thin in its actual thickness, it's only about 3/16 of an inch thick, is made up of layer after layer of micron-type layers, 3 to 4 microns in depth.
Wow.
That is like plant material, like the fibers in a plant leaf. And they believe that this is a biological, living biology.
All right.
It's the machine.
All right. To clean up one thing before we take the break and then start to take calls, so folks, if you want to dial now, be my guest. And we're going to screen the call, so just to make sure you've got an appropriate question. The obelisk itself, did anybody go back? Did anybody check whether it was still there?
We did the next day. We drove back. Gary drove back, took a trailer and chains and a truck, and he was bound and determined to drag that thing out of the forest one way or another. It was gone. But the more interesting thing is all the plants and the ferns that I tore out underneath it were put back like it was pristine, like nothing had ever happened in that space. Like time had been reversed in that place.
Okay. All right, Doctor, hold tight right there. Now we are going to open the lines. If you have a question for Dr. Reed, please give us a call. The number is 1-855-REAL-UFO. Or, if you wish, 1-855-732-5886. Now, I'm led to I think I understand that our lines are now open to Canadians as well as Americans. If you have a question, now would be the time. We're going to take a break here, and if we're able to get any other witnesses, we'll pursue that as well. We've got a couple of other numbers of witnesses here. It's quite a tale, no question about it. Alien in the freezer. This is Dark Matter on Sirius XM. It's a pleasure to be with you this night. My guest is Dr. Johnathan Reed, and I hope you've heard the story. If not, there's not going to be any way to catch you up. You'll have to get it on the repeat. But we're talking about an alien encounter, a very, very, very serious alien encounter. And we've got another witness who's coming forward. He would be Dan McAvoy, who's a UFO research investigator. We've got to call in to the microbiologist as well. But Dan McAvoy, if you're there, speak up now.
Hi, Art. How you doing? It's great to be back on and your show to be back on here. Something sorely missed.
Oh, thank you so very much.
No.
Let's say Roswell's. All right. As briefly as you're able, Dan, you are a UFO research investigator.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how did you get in contact with Johnathan, and what did you do?
Well, I had heard him on your show back in 1999, I believe it was, and I was intrigued, and then heard him again on the show, and then realized that out in Laughlin, Nevada, there would be a convention where he would speak for the first time and present his book and his information. And I decided to go out there, and as you would say, I wanted to take that ride. And I wanted to do it on this because this was not like anything else that I've seen. We've seen lights in the sky, we've seen possible abductions, but this goes way beyond. Way beyond,
yes. Okay, in what way can you witness for him?
Well, I have, of course, spoken to people, videotaped people that knew him, professors, friends. I documented his life. We spent 15 years together doing this. And I guess, the probably the strangest or most climactic experience was when Johnathan and I went to a hotel room with two other folks, and we shut the door, and everything was, lit as it should be. We sat across from these two folks at a table. Basically, they said, "Johnathan, do you feel like doing this?" "Sure." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Absolutely." And with that, one of them pulled a blue blanket, but a blue wrap cloth out of his jacket pocket, and he laid it on the table, and it turned out to be the linked artifact itself, not encased in anything. It was just there.
Okay.
And Johnathan grabbed it, and before the three of us could do anything, he had already put it on his wrist, and it began to seem to clamp down on his wrist because of the three needles that are on the underside. Okay. And it seemed to turn blue, and the hardest part is that I think it was a form of teleportation because he wasn't there. After that, he shook violently, and then it appears he was gone out of the room.
When you say he shook violently, Johnathan, is that the same kind of shake that you observed with the creature? I don't know if Jonathan's still there. I don't. Okay, well, let me just ask you, was it that kind of vibration? I'm sure you've heard him describe it a million times, that alien vibrating at such a fast rate. Was it like that?
It was like that, and that's what leads me to conclude that perhaps it was an interdimensional thing because of the vibration. And it is similar to the vibrations that that the alien and his dog encountered. It was almost too hard to see. Right. And then perhaps, in those kind of moments, minutes can seem like seconds, and within that time, I don't know, 15, 30 seconds, a minute at the most, there was a flash of light from up in the corner, sort of a golden light, and there he was. I mean, just as he was sitting at the table 2 minutes ago.
So you actually saw him disappear, and you saw him reappear.
Exactly.
Okay. And you worked with the J. Allen Hynek group, and you worked with MUFON, right?
Well, yes, and, this case has put a schism between those folks. There's been so much controversy, that they around for me and was just abused and just a not, the organizations aren't what they used to be.
I understand.
And, it's a shame. But
and it was over this case, huh?
Well, as far as I can tell from all the publications, talking with all the prominent researchers in the field, that's the sense I get. And it's because there's so much here, it's so deep, that others just want to skim off the top. And, the other correlation, I think, is money. Through this, we've never, in 15 years, have never taken money from anyone. We did it for free. We gave books for free. We handed them out for free. And this goes from California to Seattle, all the way down throughout Mexico, down into Central America, and then into South America. And it was so big, and the reception was so great that we didn't have to sell any books. It didn't matter if we gave books away just because.
Go
ahead.
You're an ex-Army Ranger, close combat weapons specialist, paratrooper, awarded many credits of valor and honor in your service. Thank you for your service to the country, by the way.
You're quite welcome.
And one more thing, I understand that you've had a series of strokes lately.
Yes.
So your coming on tonight really means a lot to me. Thank you.
No, Art, thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
All right, you take care, my friend. And again, thank you for the witnessing, and thank you especially not being fully healthy, taking the time to come on the radio. That's big to me.
No, Art, it was my pleasure, and I'm so excited that you're back on, that, we can be at the pinnacle again, and that's a great thing.
And thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, that was Dan McAvoy. Obviously an amazing guy, and he has been in ill health, and it took a lot for him to come on tonight. Doctor, are you still there?
Yes, I am, Art.
Okay.
May I add something at this moment?
Yes, sure.
Dan McAvoy is a great man. He is a great friend, and he has sacrificed a lot for me. And there are a lot of others who have sacrificed a lot, plus their lives. There are 9 people who gave their life to help me, and other researchers who gave me support who are no longer with us also. Some of these people were murdered, in my opinion, to keep this from coming out to the public.
Mm-hmm.
These are people like Wendell Stevens and Donald Ware and Dr. John Mack and Zachariah Sitchin, Dan McAvoy, Dave Thomas, Zachariah Enoch. These are all people from all over the world who gave me their time and found out that what I was saying was true. And they gave their lives to protect me and to get this truth out. And I thank them forever.
Right. There's been so much controversy around this case. All right, Dr. Reed, we're going to take some calls, if that's okay with you.
Yes, perfect.
Let's rock. Hello there, Dark Matter. You're on the air with Dr. Reed.
Yes. Thanks for taking my call, first of all, and Roswell to you, sir. My question is for Dr. Reed, obviously. Did the alien ever relate to you through telepathy or otherwise as to its possible origin and why it might have been in the forest that day? Why did you run into it? Did he hint to you in any way to the possibilities of this? Thank you for taking my question. I'll take my answer off the air.
Sure, it's a good one, too.
Yes, he did. After a period of years of communicating with this little guy, I have kind of built up some idea about how he formulates his communication. Mm-hmm. First of all, he's a genetically engineered worker. He is designed and built to do the same type of job that we would send a rover to do on Mars. But the only difference is he's biology. He was designed to be in our environment, in our atmosphere.
So he's like a biological probe.
Exactly. But he has all the sensitivities of a living person. He is alive. He is a living creature who has feelings and curiosities. He's very curious. But he doesn't have a great extensive knowledge base. I think it's designed so that it does a job. It was built to do a job. And for the most that we can determine that was something to do with geology of the area that I found it in. That he was doing something to do with the earth and the geology. He talks. He makes sounds. I even have a recording of what it sounds like when he was in the garage with me, when he would make this chirpy, squeaky sound.
Do you have that with you?
Yes, I can play it.
Play it.
Part of it. Okay, it's a little difficult to hear, but you'll hear me in the background.
Go for it. Wow.
That's actually his...
All right, that almost sounds like a Geiger counter, a kind of clicking sound. So.
Well, when you listen to it in its entirety, you can actually hear him become more excited at one point and less excited at another. When I hand him a cup of water, he takes it from me and actually throws it at the empty cup at me to test me, to watch my reaction. Now, this isn't something that a non-intelligent being would do. This is something that an animal would do.
All right, back to the phones. Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Reed. Have you taken any DNA samples of this space alien? And I'm SR-31 from Coast Scouts. Bye.
Okay. And there were samples taken, right?
Yes, there were blood and tissue samples. Harold Chacon and two other biologists did the work. Two of them are dead. The head pathologist, the University of Washington Pathology Department, was killed in his office when they were ready to release this within a week.
But again, the results of the testing.
Many of the results are still available. We have actually published them on the web years and years ago.
Okay.
And of course, as soon as we would publish them, they would amazingly disappear within moments.
Of course. Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello.
Hello. Well, I encountered an alien with my time with the Air Force. It made those strange noises too, and I could see the membrane in its mouth moving around. And the closest thing that I've ever heard recorded, unfortunately that recording, it was really hard for us to hear. It made wind chime-like noises. That the closest thing I've ever heard of was the demon-possessed children. Sometimes they'll make tones that sound like wind chimes, that are just things that a human vocal cord couldn't make. I'm just wondering if you could tell us any more about the chime sound.
He did make kind of a whistling, chiming sound sometimes. And I think it depended on his mood, his curiosity at the moment. He was extremely afraid, just like I was.
Well, you're right, Doc. He's right. That holding the phone up to that was insufficient.
Don't know what's wrong with the tape. Let me see if I can get it fixed.
It sounded like clicks, and I'm sure to the audience it did as well. It didn't go beyond that, but you're trying to hold the phone on your player. Doesn't work that well.
Yes, he did make these kind of sounds. And to answer the previous caller, we believe that he's from either Orion or the Andromeda area of the sky.
How did you relate that information to you?
With the map of the sky and the stars and constellations.
Okay.
Everything he speaks through is imagery, is either geometry or actual imagery. And not in words, but in visualization. Mm-hmm. And we've created a database of this information, not only from me, but from hundreds of other people and their encounters too. That's currently what I'm doing, is working with a Russian space communication group to build a database to communicate directly with them.
Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello.
Yeah, hey, first Lord, I just want to say Roswell and Dr. Reed.
I was wondering, okay, now if I understand your description correctly, Freddy was an organic being aided by inorganic technology. And I actually have a two-part question. The unfortunate loss of your dog, do you think that was just a reflective stress reaction? And did Freddy use, do you think he used his own capabilities or the technology?
Sometimes I should make sure on these old tapes. Just a moment.
In regard to this, I believe that Freddie probably was only defending himself when my dog came upon him. And it was like as if we were attacked by a wild animal. You do whatever you have to do to defend yourself, your life. And I believe that's actually what he was doing, but I believe that the technology of his suit, of this black suit that expanded itself around the head of my dog, was a defense mechanism to protect Freddie himself. So that's my belief. I have since spent lots of time apologizing to Freddie, telling him I didn't know what I was doing, that I didn't mean to hurt him, and that I now know he was only trying to defend himself.
Did Freddie actually say anything to you about your dog? I mean,
No.
No.
There's never been any kind of indication that he even understands what I said regarding my dog.
So you think that was a purely defensive mechanism?
Yes, I do.
All right. Hello there. You're on the air on Dark Matter with Dr. Reed.
Hi, Art. Jake here. Thanks for taking my call. Dr. Reed,
You bet.
you said that he communicated with you, and another caller asked that question, and you answered it pretty good. Have you ever gotten any feelings about what they're looking for? Why are they here? I know they're here checking out plant life, that kind of thing. But what is their purpose? Is there something more that they're wanting to do?
Yes, there is.
Wonderful question. Okay.
It's very involved, the answer, but the short answer is yes, I have a pretty good idea of what they are doing. They are caretakers. They are caretakers of life, not only of plant life, but all life. This planet is nothing more than a huge, huge melting pot of life, a jewel in the universe, as some would say, where beings, where creatures have been put possibly to thrive and survive. And maybe we are the same. Maybe we are part of that group that was put here, and that we are also being carefully tended to, carefully loved.
Were you made aware of his mission? I mean, for example, that encounter in the woods and the obelisk, he had to be in the middle of some mission or movement or something to be there at that time for you to have that encounter. What was Freddie doing? Were you ever made aware?
It was something to do with the geology of the area, that they were monitoring something to do with that area. What's very interesting is if you take a compass up to that location, it'll just spin. It'll just spin endlessly.
Really?
And other people have gone there.
To this very day?
To this very day. Other people have gone there and checked out radiation samples, ground samples, and found that there is an extra amount of radiation that seems to be in a 300-foot degree area.
More evidence.
There is so much, Art. It's mind-boggling.
All right. Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello. Hello. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't know I was on the line there.
You are.
Roswell, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Jonathan, I'm wondering that optic that you described, being stationary. That sounds an awful lot like me, like an obelisk. Like
Well,
2001.
Well, that is what I called it, the obelisk.
Okay, and when you fell against it and you froze your hand, I'm wondering if that was its living chamber, where it's the same as if it was in your freezer.
I don't think so. I never felt about that. I felt more that it was a doorway, maybe an interdimensional doorway that allowed him to come and go there, using slipping dimension to travel through time and space.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Robert Ghostwolf?
Yes, in fact, I have spoken with Robert Ghostwolf many times.
I've interviewed him. Sure.
I remember I've been a long-time listener to Art since '93. He described a lot of futuristic events happening due to fluctuation in vibrational levels, and I wonder, like you're surmising, is that this is an interdimensional being?
Absolutely. Okay. We felt the same way, and when talking with Robert, he said the same thing, that this was definitely that.
Somebody named Sam is coming through the wormhole and just asking, what was described to us, that you disappeared with that bracelet and then reappeared. Sam is asking, where did you go? Are you able to tell us where you were during that apparent teleportation?
Sure. I became very, very violently in the moment when I put it on. It becomes a huge pressure inside of my chest, almost what must feel like a severe heart attack. It radiates to my extremities. I start to lose my sight down to almost a singular or tunnel type vision that becomes almost black, and then all of a sudden it becomes completely clear. And I was in a large, oval, egg-shaped room, probably 50 feet high, 30 feet wide. And in that room was standing another entity, and I'm very careful about how I say this, that was probably 10 to 15 feet high, standing off the side of this wall, looking down on me. It was gold. It was large. It looked like it had big golden robe wrapped around it, almost like it had wings and a shape without a complete face. But in this second, when I was there, I was inside of it. It was inside of me. It was like being in the presence of an angel or God.
Did it communicate to you?
It communicated before I could even say anything. It was answering my thoughts. It was telling me, you are important. All life is important in the universe. There is one creator for all life, but we all have to work together to find the harmony in this life. And that is their job.
All right, Doctor, hold tight. Dr. Johnathan Reed is my guest. You're listening to Dark Matter exclusively on Sirius XM Radio. I'm Art Bell. I find this music calms me, and frankly, I need a little calming right now. This is one hell of a story. Believe it, not believe it, think it's a hoax, think it's gospel, whatever. It's a hell of a story. That's all there is to it. Let's see. I've got a message from the wormhole asking, Doctor, if you know the coordinates to this location where the compasses spin and where all this occurred.
No, I don't know the exact compass coordinates, and to tell you the truth, I wouldn't give it out because people would go there and tear the site apart.
They would. They absolutely would. There's no question about it.
So I was very careful in locating it just a little bit out of the actual site when I wrote about it.
Good. Because, you know, what you're saying is the absolute truth. Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello.
Art Roswell, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
My initial call that I told the screener has been answered several times. So to jump from that, Dr. Reed, I was curious. You said that the alien spoke to you talking about how life is very important, and I was wondering if it had given you any sort of sense that it or they believe the human race to be a bit arrogant in assuming that we are the highest form and most important directive of life on this planet.
Well, first of all, the one who told me about their feelings toward us was what I call the elder, one of the elders, which is a totally different kind of being from Freddie. This is a light being. This is energy, just pulsing energy that was inside of me the second I was there. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to ever leave that spot. I've never felt so much love and tenderness in my life. It was like being in the arms of your mother. There was no feeling that we're arrogant to them. There was a feeling that we're naive, that we're young and we're very undeveloped, and that we need time to grow and nurture and feel what this life is really all about. That this life is to be lived, to find the harmony, to find the frequency in our lives, to learn to find that energy, that love that we are supposed to be experiencing.
No complaints about American exceptionalism, huh?
No.
Okay.
No identification of said area or territory.
Dark Matter, you're on the air. Hello.
Hey, Art, you there?
I am indeed.
Mega Roswell's to you, Art. Mega Roswell.
Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Reed, real quick, I'll cut to the chase and listen off the air, but obviously Freddie has turned your life upside down and many others around you. If you could take it all back, would you? Would you not want to be the one that had to deliver the message? Thank you.
What a great question. Thank you. Great question. If you could undo it all, if you could just have it disappear, kind of like you do with a bracelet, would you do that?
Well, on one side of that question, absolutely. I had a great life prior to this. I had all the things that represent the American dream. But since then, since all that was taken away, what I was left with was the ability to see beyond what life I had before. And now I know that there is so much more to this life. There is so much, shall we say, miracles everywhere. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about the magic of life, of nature.
Itself, yes. Well, the question was, would you undo this? Would you undo it?
No.
No.
Not by what I now know.
Because I remember when I first interviewed you, I think you would have undone it, but quick.
Well, that's what I said originally when it had torn my life apart. I was left with nothing. But in the last 10, 12 years, since I stopped publicly speaking, since I decided to basically court the science side of life one more time, I have been sought out by science groups and universities all around the world. I have spoken to heads of state and heads of countries about this. I was invited by the Vatican 1 month ago to speak with the new Pope.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Are you going to do it?
I've done it.
You did it?
I did it. Who told me, Johnathan, you are a messenger for all of us.
You spoke to the Pope?
I stayed in the Vatican for 4 days.
Holy smokes. No pun intended.
Incredible
you were invited? You were invited to the Vatican?
I was invited for two reasons. One, I had met the past Pope when I was in the hospital in Mexico some years back, and he happened to be in Mexico. And he was visiting the hospital, and I had an opportunity to talk to him because I was sick in the hospital also. I had actually died for 19 minutes. And
You actually arrested? Physical
Yes.
signs,
Yes.
all that? Wow.
Yes. And
That's another subject I'm really interested in pursuing.
And he came to talk with many people, not just me, but he said that this is a good thing. He actually asked me, Pope Benedict asked me, how can we help them? How can we help the aliens?
Okay. Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello. Hello. Yes.
Well,
Sorry?
I'd like to ask Dr. Reed, was the alien wearing clothes? And did you feel them? Was he wearing shoes? How many fingers did he have?
Yes, he had a black suit on, similar to what I would reference like spandex. That was a one piece of material, no seams, no zippers, almost like a turtleneck type thing that covered his hands, his feet, his body, his legs, his torso, everything. What was unique about the suit is when he was unconscious in my garage, I did a topical examination of him, feeling through his suit, feeling my way to find out his fingers, that he had basically 3 fingers in like a glove or a mitten form, but inside there were 5 fingers. He had basically the same anatomy that a human would have, except some small additions. But then one thing was very interesting is I took an X-Acto knife and I attempted to cut the suit. And as I cut a 2-inch strip in it, it sealed itself up.
Oh.
And then I cut it again, and it sealed itself up again. And the third time, it wouldn't let me cut it at all.
Really?
And what's interesting about that, Art, is
That's almost a learned behavior, right?
5 years later, NASA came out with a press release that said 5 years later that they had invented a material that was a healing fabric.
Wow.
All that was written in the book in 2000. So,
Do you think that NASA got hold of that technology?
Yes, I do.
And that's where it came from?
Well, I think it came from a lot of involvement with extraterrestrial life, intelligent off-Earth life. We're surrounded by this. This is not one species only. There's supposedly 50 plus. There's billions of stars, billions of galaxies.
Yes.
And these people travel with dimensional shifting. They don't use our conventional ways of travel. They use light to travel.
Well, everything you've described, Doctor, about the vibrational shifting, both of the alien creature in the woods, of you with the bracelet on, all of that smacks of vibration, of course, smacks of frequency, and frequency seems to be at issue here in terms of...
Let me say something about that, Art, and it's good that you bring that up. All of the religions of the world talk about harmony in their basic rule. Their basic rule. I'm not talking about their protracted politics. I'm talking about their basic rule. And harmony in science, harmony translates to frequency. And frequency translates to energy in science. All of them talk about finding the harmony within your family, within yourself, and extending that harmony, extending that frequency to bring us back into balance. You talked last night. Go ahead.
It's gonna make sense to a lot of people.
Last night you talked with Dr. Greer about the fact that our world is out of balance. Well, that's what they're telling me. Every time I've gone away, every time I've been able to speak with these elders, these incredibly warm, loving, gifted angels, they talk about finding the balance in our life. That it's so simple. We've made it difficult. We're the ones who have put on blinders and refuse to bring it back home. You want to find love in your life, Art? Look in your daughter's eyes.
Oh, I know.
And
if
we did more of that, think how much better the world would be.
Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed.
Art?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
moment. Art, Oswald's to you.
Thank you.
And as a ham, I was wondering, I know you go on, I guess, what's the 80-meter band? Or
I do, yes.
Or 160-meter band.
Actually, I'm on all of them.
Are you planning on doing any sort of after-show net?
I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about this one of these days, but now is not the time.
All right, well, I have a question for Dr. Reed then.
Go ahead.
Dr. Reed, it sounds like Freddie has gone from being the frozen ET burrito in the freezer to walking around in your garage. I was wondering, does he consume any sustenance or leave any refuse? Does he?
Okay. All right. That's a good question. Right. Does he take in any?
I try to feed him all kinds of things, including dog food, tuna fish, steak, grass, vegetables. The only thing he ever took that I ever saw him consume was water.
Water.
And as far as leaving anything behind, never. Not a thing.
Okay. He's obviously referring to the biological process.
Right.
Yeah, right. Dark matter, and you're on there with Dr. Reed. Hello.
Hi, Art. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes, Art. This is Dave from Pittsburgh. Look, I'm 24 years old, so I was alive, but I wasn't, old enough to hear you back from your prime, and it's great to hear you back on the radio. So you have a lot of younger fans out there. My question for Dr. Reed is this. What, if anything, I think the previous caller was asking, did the alien eat anything, or did he steal anything from you? Did he take anything from you? I mean, he was in your freezer, so did you have any pizza rolls missing or anything missing? If you could answer that, I'd be appreciated.
Yeah, nothing was missing.
Yeah, especially pizza rolls.
But and he only drank water, only water.
Okay, now that was answered previously, and that caller knew it. Pizza rolls was a crap.
Okay.
Dark matter, you're on the air.
Hello?
With Dr. Reed. Yes, hi.
Yes, I was wondering, when the alien was peering into Reed's mind, did he notice if it had any brain damage from the injury? Also, the entire time it was out of the freezer, did he ever notice it having any scarring, or if the injury had healed, if it regenerated at all?
He has a scar on his head to this day, just as if we would have a scar on my body or your body. It remains. He is biological. He has biology just like we do, and the scar remains. In regard to him moving and being in my presence in the garage during the first 9 days, he moved in and out of the freezer like a fluidity that I had never seen, like a gymnast that was so graceful and so slow, but so powerful. It was just beautiful to watch.
So there was some lucky accident, or maybe it wasn't an accident that he ended up in the freezer, because either that was his environment or it was a healing environment for him.
Well, that's all I can assume. He never told me that I need to be in the cold. He never has ever indicated anything about it. He was free to come and go. I was so afraid of him during those first days that I would have been happy if he would have left on his own.
I'm sure. All right. Dark matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hi.
Art Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, I have a question for Roswell, and I have a question for Dr. Reed. I once saw a UFO, and I had this telepathic communication that was 2 or 3 seconds long, and it was large amounts of information that I won't go into. Was it like that, communicating with your alien?
Exactly. In fact, when he would do it, it was like a fire hose being squirted into my brain. I had to ask him verbally to slow down because I would get these intense migraine headaches the second I was in his presence. So he learned to slow down for me.
Rein it in for you. Wow, that is fascinating because that just sort of validates my own experience.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Kind of like a massive download, boom, like that.
Absolutely. And there are, again, I'm going to say, this is not just about me. There are thousands of people all over the world who I've spoken to, who have had very similar experiences.
I know, but you're the one who's left with so much physical evidence. So many of the cases are circumstantial, is the word I guess I would use. They just don't come with the kind of incredible amounts of evidence that you've got, Doctor. Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed. Hello.
All right, Roswell's to you. And, Doctor, my mental buffers are backing up with questions about the bracelet, so I'll go quickly and be brief. I was surprised in the interview you just mentioned you had some health problems since all this started happening. I almost expected you to say when you put the bracelet on that it had healing properties for you. My question, plural, is number one, is there any ongoing testing or research with regard to this bracelet and its properties? And the second question is, has anybody else ever put it on? I would have brought it and asked the pup to put it on.
Well, first of all, yes, somebody else has tried to put it on. In fact, the initial person who put it on after I did was Robert, and he was immediately sick for about a week. I mean, really, really sick, like I was in the woods. Now, he didn't go anywhere, but he put it on when I happened to be going to the bathroom in the other room just to try it. And it didn't work. Now, two other scientists have attempted to try it, and both of them are dead. One died immediately, and the other one died a week later. It is being tested, and it is being used for the communication that we are setting up. Something you need to know, Art, and I need to say this.
Sure.
This is not just about ETs. This is not just about visitors from other planets. This is about life and how we all need to evolve and need to extend ourselves to other life. That's what they're telling me. That's what they're telling many other people. In the visits that I've done to use this artifact, it's like being in the presence of God. But I try to take that out of it. I try to see it for the science and the information that I can get out of it. But
I understand why you would feel that, though. I do understand.
We are being shown and given direction that probably has been given to us for centuries by a teacher here and there, all over time. I am not special. I didn't want this to happen. I could have much preferred to give this to you, Art, than for me to do this. But for some reason, I have this responsibility. And I've decided, since so much of it now has encompassed my life and changed my life for the better, I have decided I will take the responsibility to tell people simply what I know. Nothing more, nothing less.
All right, Doctor. We've got one more break and one more round of questions, and that's it. Dr. Johnathan Reed is my guest. This is Dark Matter. I'm Art Bell, exclusively on Sirius XM Radio. Maybe after you've had an experience like Dr. Reed's, you don't fear the Reaper anymore. Good evening, everybody. I am Art Bell, and Dr. Reed is still here. We'll take some more questions with what time we have left. Hello, you're on the air. Dark Matter's listening. Hi.
Art Bell.
Yes, sir.
Roswell's.
Thank you.
I have recently seen an interview with a doctor. He was a professor of neurology, not a particularly religious man, self-described, and his explanation of when he had a form of meningitis and he thought that he had passed through was strikingly similar to the doctor's explanation of talking to the golden being. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a similarity between the two.
Very much so. Very much so. I believe this is happening to many people all around the world. You know, this life is a precious thing, and I think there's a lot more to it than what we can perceive, what we can actually comprehend. This is something that I think we need to unlearn about our modern times. I think we need to take the blinders off that are politically motivated, that are economically motivated, and get back to the basics of what this life is supposed to be. It's supposed to be lived. It's supposed to be experienced and cherished.
Doctor,
Yes.
I had had a massive heart attack at one time, and I remember fading away, and people speak of the walking toward the light, and I was afraid to walk toward the light. And but I felt compelled to do so.
Let me tell you something. I know that our lives continue. I know that we are immortal. Our soul, our energy that lives within inside of us. I've seen it. I've seen where it goes. Have seen the process in front of my very eyes. I know
I hope you're right about that. I really hope you're right about that.
It's unquestionable to me. I have seen it, Art.
I wish I had seen it, and I wish I could say it's unquestionable to me. I can't say that. It's awful, huh? I can't say that. I question everything. Hi, Dark Matter, you're on the air with Dr. Reed.
Hello, Art, and hello, Dr. Reed.
Hello.
My default position, having grown up around the nation's capital, is to be skeptical. But about 22 years ago, I had an experience. It was not UFO related. It was metaphysical, but it knocked my socks off. And one night I'll call and tell you about it, Art. But here's my question for you. I missed the first part of the interview, and I kind of pieced together that you were a doctor having to do with psychology, and I think this happened in the state of Washington in the 90s.
Correct.
And I also get the sense that you were affiliated with some sort of university in the state of Washington.
Let me add for you, sir, that if you missed the first part of it, immediately after the show, it begins repeating. So.
Oh yes, I know. I'm going to catch it, but my question is, and you might have answered it before, but did you lose your job over this? I mean, outside of the shock of it happening, what were the ramifications?
Well, the ramifications was that I lost everything. Everything was eliminated from my life by a government-type faction, by a group that systematically eliminated my bank accounts, all of my accreditation, my job, everywhere that I went, including my passport and my birth certificate didn't exist. The only way that I got a passport back was I had a law firm threaten to sue the U.S. government that we were going to plant a story in every major newspaper in the United States that the U.S. government had refused to give me my passport back because I had had an extraterrestrial experience. I got my passport back 4 days later.
Dark Matter, you're on the air.
Yes. Hi, Art.
Hello.
Thank you for taking my call. I got a quick question for the doctor. I'm just curious. I know for every force there's an opposing force, and the people who tried to destroy his life, are they still after him? And why do you think that they would be opposed to the goodness that's coming from this?
All good questions, yeah.
Believe it or not, the major conspiracy to silence me and anybody around me comes from the United States of America. And I think that's interesting in itself. Most other countries have either submitted the fact that extraterrestrial life does exist and they have files that prove it. They don't seem to bother me. They seem to leave me alone. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and and for the most part, I don't do much in the United States. As of 2004, I quit speaking in the United States because too many people were dead. And I decided I would go a different direction. And it's not that I'm not speaking. It's that I'm speaking to a different type of group who's willing to listen. That's all I've ever asked, was just for people to listen.
Right. The wormhole is asking what happened to Gary. Is Gary alive or dead?
Well, after we went on your show, Art, I had not had any contact with him for years. Nobody thought he was alive, and some relatives of his called me, verified, in fact, who I was, and I went to see him. Gary had been beaten and left for dead on the side of a road with severe brain injuries and literally was on his last moments. And I used the Link artifact and took him with me to that round room and saw his life change before my eyes. I saw him, his spirit, his energy, his life force, whatever you want to call it. I saw it given back to him and him put in to the collective. And those are my words.
Everybody who's even had a brush with you in this whole thing has been affected dramatically, haven't they?
Yes, and we're still standing, Art. That's the amazing thing. We don't do any advertising. We don't do any, like Dan said, we've probably given away as many books as we've sold. But that by the grace of God, by the grace of other people who have helped this to continue, I will keep speaking to those who want to listen, because I know something. I know that our life, our civilization, our humanity needs to evolve, because we're in trouble. We're in really big trouble right now.
I agree with that.
And some of the answers are so simple. And I believe we can find them together. I believe that when we reach out across the airwaves, across the table, and touch the person across from us, we're giving them part of ourselves. We are giving them part of our energy, part of our life. That's what we need to do. We need to bring it back to that kind of simplicity, where our lives are shared together to enhance each other, where our energy helps each other grow and evolve.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Whatever with the rest of this story, what you just said is absolutely true. We're in deep trouble, and we need a new direction. That probably is obvious to everybody.
Well, I've taken the responsibility of the gift that I was given, and I now take it very seriously, and I know that others need to listen. Others need, not just to me, but to the idea that life can be so much better if we just work together.
Dr. Reed, we're leaving all the lines full, zillions of them blinking. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the message. Thank you for taking the calls. And most of all, thank you for relating the story in such great detail once again.
Art Bell, I want to say, Roswell, I want to say God bless to you, your current family, your past family, and find that harmony.
Good night, my friend.
Good night, thank you.
We make it to tomorrow with a sunshine on you.
And with that, Art Bell's episode concludes, and that'll conclude our broadcast day here on From Day One. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another, and release the Kraken as we continually march along here from Day One.
This is Dark Matter.
Have a
host, Art Bell. Now, here's Art.
Shush. I happen to have 2 episodes on the same tape. And have a great night.